Saints, a team that lost 8 veteran free agents to the Type B free agency. We really have yet to delve into that. We will through the afternoon. The effect that some of these selections in the later rounds will have Type Bs. New Orleans is up with about 6.5 minutes to go before their selection. We talk about the fortunes of players rising and falling, and then there are players who just want to get, as we watch the Saints, want to get into that first round. It's prestige and it is money. One such player is a cornerback from North Carolina Central, Robert Massey, maybe on the bubble as it comes to being projected as a first rounder. And with him, spending this draft Sunday with him, is our Jimmy Roberts in Durham, North Carolina. Hello, Jim.
Hi, Bob. How are you today? We're down in Durham, North Carolina, as you said, at the home of 22-year-old agent Drew Rosenhaus, representing several of the players here in the triangle area between North Carolina State, North Carolina, and Duke University. Most notably, Robert Massey, the cornerback from North Carolina Central University. And, Robert, a couple of surprises in the first round, huh?
Yeah. The biggest surprise to me is the fact that Louis Oliver and players like Andre Rison are still available. And it's scary because in my situation, it seems now that the first round is almost impossible.
Well, there is, as Bob Lee mentioned, quite a big difference between the first round and the second round monetarily. I think we mentioned in talking yesterday that the difference in signing bonuses alone can be as much as $500,000 in average between the first and second rounds. I know you're sweating it out right now.
Yes, when you're talking money, most definitely, because you want to make as much money as possible, so I'm scared.
What about Miami? I know that you and Drew were talking about the possibility of going there, and that pick, Sammy Smith, surprised you?
Shocking. You know, I expect Louis or Darnell to be picked at that point, and with the running back being picked, that's like a setback for the defensive backs in this year's draft.
All right, Robert Massey, we'll be here with him throughout the day until he does get picked. And, Bob, I've got a question for you. What happens if a team runs out of time? Does Gene Barth run out into the middle of the floor and throw a penalty flag?
We wait for Dick Papero to call a 2-shot foul, I think, actually. All right. Money makes a difference. Lee Steinberg, the agent, said, you know what a first-rounder is? The qualities that somebody taken on the first round. Last year, for example, Wendell Davis, the Bears, signing bonus $500,000. Marcus Cotton, who opened the second round when the Falcons took him, just got under $300,000. So between those consecutive picks, you see a big difference. On average, last year, a first-round bonus was worth nearly $700,000. On average, last year, a second-round bonus nearly $240,000. So, yes, it makes a great deal. Where you are selected in this draft, as the card should be on its way up as we await to see what New Orleans will do. Jim Finks, Bill Kuharich, and the pressure on to get this team over the hump and get back in. Who do you think, Mel?
I like Andre Rison. I don't know how you can pass up a player with his ability. And, of course, Louis Oliver still there is a great player, and I think will be a future Pro Bowler. So I think the Saints are in a great position to get value with this pick and also fill a need. You talk about speed at wide receiver. That's something they don't have.
First round selection, Wayne Martin, defensive end, Arkansas.
Wow. Wayne Martin, defensive end out of Arkansas. Now, you and I were talking earlier this morning before we started about players whose fortunes have plummeted, and he was like #1 on your hit parade this morning.
He had dropped out. He was a top 15 pick when the season started, and he had dropped into the second or third round on most teams' boards. And I think if you look at this pick right now, this is a forced pick for need. They have definite problems on the defensive line. If they're going to take the best defensive lineman available, it would be Bill Hawkins. You see Wayne Martin here. He's got some pass rush ability. He got his weight up to about 280, but he missed that Cotton Bowl game against UCLA.
Is he a head case? I think that's a question scouts are going to be asking because he was suspended. He also missed spring practice in '88 for disciplinary reasons. You're not drafting necessarily Kiwanis Citizens of the Year all the time. This is a guy who's put a lot of weight on in college, but whether indeed Bourbon Street can get to you.
Well, that's that Cotton Bowl. He had an opportunity there to really get after Troy Aikman and show what kind of pass rush ability he has against a team like UCLA. And, of course, he missed that particular contest, and I thought he had dropped down. I really believe this is a forced pick because of need on the defensive line. And if they were going to take the best defensive lineman available, I really believe it would have been Bill Hawkins.
He didn't run well at the combines either, right?
No,
he was over 5 seconds.
He did virtually nothing at all to solidify a first-round position. And I think when you look at this pick, you have to take value. And we'll be talking about Andre Rison and Louis Oliver. And these two players will be Pro Bowlers. And I doubt seriously if Wayne Martin has that kind of ability.
Well, you know, history will prove if picks are reaches. The Jets certainly have a leading morning line candidate for that with Jeff Lageman. And now Wayne Martin, defensive end, Arkansas, taken by New Orleans. Denver is up next by virtue of a trade made today with Cleveland. They've got about 13 minutes, and we'll be back in 2 of those minutes after this.
Back in New York live at the NFL Draft, the Denver Broncos are up next, and They have some time to make their first-round selection with the 20th overall pick. They made an earlier trade with Cleveland, swapping first-round spots. But in exchange, Denver also gets Cleveland's 2, 5, and 9. So to give up number 13, they get number 20, number 47, plus a 5 and 9. And really only one more defensive player on the board. Wayne Martin just went if Denver still wants to go defense. Two guys that have plummeted. Andre Rison, much as his college teammate Lorenzo White, Michigan State, did a year ago. He went a lot lower than people thought. For what reason, we don't know. And Louis Oliver. They have fallen by the wayside. And Tommy, we talked that the Broncos have good safeties. They also have good wide receivers. So those two guys don't seem to fit here, do they?
The two best athletes on the board, Rison and Oliver, still left, happen to be the two positions that the Broncos are pretty substantial at, the wide receiver and the safety spot. I still like the next choice to be Cleveland Gary. I'd like to see him get the big fullback to take the pressure, at least some of the pressure off of John Elway.
Yeah, but I mean, they've fired their whole defensive staff. Some friends of yours, they tried to get Bruce Smith for $1.5 a year. I got to think they go defense, which Joe might lead us to
Absolutely,
Hawkins.
Bill
right?
Hawkins. I think when you think of the Denver Broncos, you think of their absolute ultimate need, it's defensive help. You saw what Pat Bowlen tried to do by offering Bruce Smith as much money as he did. When he put that dollar sign out there, all he was saying is we need defensive line help right away. Bill Hawkins is probably the best guy on the board right now in the first round. My guess is they will go defense and they will go defensive line. See, he's going to save himself. Now, you figure $1.50 for Smith, he's probably going to have to only pay about $700,000-800,000, so they've got a little bit of money. By the way, Denver, by making the trade that they did with Cleveland, gets a star right next to their moves for this year's draft. I think they are the stars right now with that trade.
As long as they don't make picks like Ted Gregory, who they realize they make a mistake in and have to trade in the middle of the season to New Orleans, which was your play of the year, right? When their number one draft pick, right?
And the thing about Ted Gregory was that, and you know this if you're around the Bronco organization, this kid was reported to be 6'2", 6'2.5". When they spotted him at camp, the guy was about 6 feet tall. So questionable sighting there from the staff last year. But yes, I agree with Joe. I think they've done an excellent job so far this year, depending on the pick they make.
Argument for the metric system, at least, to be used at Denver. Denver is next. Then the Rams go, and they do have 2 first-round picks at number 21 and 26. Then it's Colts, Houston, Pittsburgh's second pick in the first round as the Merriweather trade went through, and then Chicago. So now we're getting into teams well, Denver didn't make the playoffs last year, Tom. This just in. But now we're getting to teams that are among the better in the NFL. And one thing that we could say, and we'll talk about when we get back, is a guy like an Andre Rison.
That's right.
He may be upset that he's falling down, but he may be going to a team that could get him to the Super Bowl in the first year. We'll be back with the draft continuing in a moment. All right, we are back here in New York as we await the pick of the Denver Broncos, their first-round selection coming up. As you know, that we've been going all across the country. We have live remotes in many places, like Kevin Kiley out in Anaheim, but we're not going to go there right now. See, we're going to make you wait. Good things come to those who wait. We will go to Anaheim in a moment or shortly. The Broncos have 7.5 minutes left with their first-round selection. I want to go back and just throw out a little tidbit. With Seattle's selection of Andy Heck, the tackle from Notre Dame, I believe that, first of all, it's Seattle's first time they've ever gone offensive line since 1977 when they drafted Steve August. It's also the first time that Chuck Knox at Seattle, before that Buffalo, before that the Rams, it's the first time that Chuck Knox has drafted a lineman in the first round since Dennis Harrah and Doug France, to replace guys like Joe Sabelli. I mean, are we going back a little bit in football? So Chuck is not a guy that drafts linemen first round that much, but when he does, all he asks is player personnel focus. Is this guy a football player who can play 10 years? And France and Harrah were two very good ones, and they have the same thing in mind with Andy Heck. So that just a little bit of tidbit. Another tidbit on the Chicago Bears, whose third first-round selection will be coming up. Last year, remember, the Raiders had 3 first-round picks, and they went Tim Brown, Terry McDaniel, and Scott Davis. The Bears, with their 2 first-round picks so far, have gone Donnell Wolford, Trace Armstrong, and then they have a 3rd first-round pick. The last time the Bears had 3 first-round picks was in 1965. One of those picks was Gale Sayers. Another one of those picks was Dick Butkus. I would say that those were pretty good picks, and if Trace Armstrong and Donnell Wolford can follow anywhere near those footsteps, the Bears would be awfully happy with this draft. There's the understatement so far, and I didn't even have to say he was the best athlete available. Now let's go out to Anaheim and enjoy Kevin Kiley. Kevin?
Thank you, Chris. Out here, the Rams have to be delighted about the way the draft is going so far. They lost Johnny Johnson, their leading interceptor, cornerback, to free agency. They also lost Gary Jeter. He was second on the team in sacks. Their main needs are the defensive line. Mostly defense is what the Rams are after. They're after, obviously, some young people to carry them through the next 8 or 10 years. Bill Hawkins is a guy that they wanted. Trace Armstrong is another guy. Rondy Wetson out of Florida is also another fellow that they wanted. Now, the only one out of those 3 that are gone are Trace Armstrong. They also need some help at the inside linebacker position, but it's a weak draft for that. I have to believe that the Rams people have a feeling that they're going to get some pretty good picks. Now, it took 3 guys to carry their draft picks into the draft room the other day. They have 17 picks overall. They've got 5 picks in the first 2 rounds, or 6 picks in the first 2 rounds, and they have 10 picks over the first 6 rounds. So they're going to get some of these people that have not been picked. They do not need wide receiver help. Andre Rison may not be a factor for the Rams. They picked up 2 wide receivers in last year's draft. They got Aaron Cox was their #1 pick, and of course Flipper Anderson went in the 2nd round. So they're pretty well set at wide receiver. They might be looking at Cleveland Gary also. Could be interesting here for the Rams, and they pick 21st here in the 1st round. Let's go out to Winnetka, Illinois, and Andrea Kramer.
And thank you. We are back at Steve Zucker's house. We are downstairs. Louis Oliver is upstairs. He does not want to talk to anybody, does not want to see anybody, will not come down, which is understandable. Some are saying that his stock is falling. Nobody seems to know why. One interesting thing, though, is that the 49ers have just called to talk to Louis Oliver. We do not know why. Back to New York and Chris Berman.
All right, Andrea, and there's the Broncos pick is in the hands of the commissioner, Pete Rozelle, presiding over his 30th draft today.
Denver Broncos. Denver's 1st round selection, Steve Atwater, defensive back, Arkansas. Next up, Los Angeles Rams.
Louis Oliver is there at that position, and Steve Atwater, a guy who several scouts told me they really liked, but a guy who's a safety didn't quite seem to project as Oliver. So there goes our theory about Mike Harden and Dennis Smith out the window. Maybe, although they can't play forever, Tommy. Denver has gone with the safety. You surprised?
Well, I'm surprised if you were going to go with a safety that you wouldn't go with Oliver. There must be an unspoken reason why they have not. But I think that Dennis and Mike, even though they are aging slightly, are both at the caliber of being Pro Bowl performers. Certainly, you get a guy behind him, he's going to help, and they need all kinds of defensive help, as Joe has said before.
Well, I think the important thing that Tommy brings up also is Atwater's going to help him now. This draft, if there's anything in this draft as far as depth goes, it's in defense. So they can make this pick now. They can take the luxury, and there may be that defensive lineman left out. Don't forget now, Denver also has the 2nd pick of Cleveland's, which could allow them to make a deal as well. So I think we're going to start to see some trades coming up. I mean, this is something that surprised me. I felt like there would be more deals made in this particular draft, particularly in the late rounds, than there have been at this point.
Atwater, a guy that had 70 tackles last year from his safety spot at Arkansas, 15 career interceptions with Arkansas, and now he goes into Denver. And let's face it, they have been saying that they need new defense. They certainly need a pass rusher. We thought it would be Bill Hawkins, but in Steve Atwater, there's a guy that really has improved his ranking in the last week or so. He has been moving up. Next up are the Rams with the first of their 2 first-round selections. For more on what Denver has done, and there you see the Rams on the horn. Again, it's a long-distance call. Let's go over to Bobby and Mel.
Okay, Chris, I think Tommy touched on it. An unspoken reason, whether a perception forms in the mind of a scout or player personnel people along the way, whether there are rumors, founded or unfounded, whether there's just something you see. Louis Oliver is still out there. Andre Rison is still out there. The Rams are up with about 12 minutes to go. Then comes Indianapolis. You heard Andrea Kramer say, though, that the phone call has come in. The Niners wanting to talk to Louis Oliver before we get to other matters, do you think they would be of a mind to trade up maybe with the Rams or the Colts to get a shot at him at this point, not anticipating that shot before?
Well, I think you have to look at it and look at Louis Oliver as a sliding player. When that starts to happen, everybody starts to wonder why. But I think that if you look at Oliver and you look at Rising, you have the Indianapolis Colts and you have the Pittsburgh Steelers on the horizon. I know the Steelers, for one, would love to have Rising. Indianapolis has wide receiver needs opposite Brooks. And, of course, Oliver would fit in there as well. But I think the Pittsburgh Steelers are the team that could come out of this draft with two outstanding offensive players if, in fact, a guy like Rising is still there. And even if he isn't, Lawyer Tillman from Auburn is a player that would really look good in a Steeler uniform. So Pittsburgh, with Worley and one of these two receivers, is going to do a great job surrounding Brister with the kind of skill people he really needs to be a great quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah, whether these are reaches or whether these are just some great intuitive moves that will be hailed into the 90s when you look back on the draft of '89 as master strokes of genius, we can't say right now, but we can say the Rams have about 11 minutes to go. The Colts, Houston, then Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh with their second first-round selection. Then comes Chicago, the Rams again. So the Rams have needs. And right now, John Robinson and John Math trying to decide what to do because they have opportunities they didn't think they would have at this moment. We're waiting on them. We'll wait for you to come right back with us. We'll be back.
We're back live at the NFL Draft. The first round has gone about 2 hours and 15 minutes, and actually, it's gone pretty quickly. We are up to the Los Angeles Rams selection, their first-round selection of the two. They have the number 21, the number 26 pick overall. This is their own pick, number 21. Getting back very quickly a moment ago to Denver, which was Steve Atwater, the safety. Yes, they have Dennis Smith and Mike Harden over there, but a message, Tommy, here?
Well, I think that one thing people have to understand, you're looking for depth, but also Dennis, although he's a Pro Bowl caliber player, last year missed a few games. He's missed a few games in previous years. He's had injury problems. And Dan is a guy, as a head coach, who likes to see you on the field all the time, as all head coaches would. But I think he may be sending a slight message to Dennis that either stay healthy and be on the football field, or we'll have to try to move somebody else in there.
The Rams, for the second time in 2 years. Last year they had 2 1s and 3 2s. There you go. It's hard to say that, but they had 5 in the first 2 rounds. Same thing this year. They got their 2 1s and they've got a bunch of 2s. Last year they picked among their first 3 selections a couple of wide receivers, Aaron Cox and also Willie Anderson in the second round. So, I mean, here's Rising. We're trying to put him somewhere. If they don't go, please, Joe, I think the Colts are going to take him, aren't they?
We'll find a place for him somewhere, Chris. We're going to find a kid a home someplace, somehow. He's too good not to go in the first round. He can help some football team. I don't believe it's going to be the Los Angeles Rams. I think with Jackie Slater getting a little bit older, it's going to be an offensive lineman, some offensive help. The reason why is Fritz Shermer has gone to that multi-linebacker type defense. So their need for a defensive lineman, a nose tackle, a defensive end, is not as great as one would seem in a football team. I look for the Rams to go offensive tackle and in Indianapolis to come up and probably find a home for Rising. He'd like it there in the Midwest. Just drop down from Michigan and, take a little short trip down.
Plus a dome, and there's a team that, like we said, could be going to the playoffs. The Rams, you mentioned the change in their philosophy and defense, but still they lost a lot of their veteran defensive line people. Jeter went to New England. Meisner, they lost in the draft. They also lost a safety, Johnny Johnson. The Rams' faces are changing, but, here's a team that is a playoff team, made the wild card last year, and has all these blue chip selections last year and this year. They really ought to make their mark here, shouldn't they?
They got to go defense, Chris. They really have to go defense. It's a situation that they're faced with because they loaded up offensively. They've got to get some help on the defensive side.
All right, let's jump over to Bobby and Mel as their thoughts on the Rams as the first round. We told you it would slow down eventually, and finally it has.
But a couple of years ago, it was a marathon. It was bloody after a while. 4 hours and 8 minutes back in '87 for the first round. Last year, rather brisk 3 hours and 29 minutes. We're 2 hours and 18 minutes into it, and already well into waiting on the 21st pick. The Rams have 2 selections here in the first round, and they had an outstanding draft last year. In fact, I think they kept 10 players either on the roster or stashing them on injured reserve, which you can't do this year. We'll get into that in a bit. So now the pressure's on to continue. I guess probably the least productive pick they had last year, of their prime picks, was their first pick, Gaston Green.
Well, they passed on John Stevens, who was the big bat that they were looking for, to take an injury-prone runner in Gaston Green, which surprised a lot of people. But, here they have the defensive line needs. But, I'm going to keep repeating the name of Andre Rison. When you're talking about the draft, a lot of people said it was a weak draft or whatever, that there's nobody after the 15th, 20th pick. When teams reach for players, it allows all these good guys that were in the top 10 to slide down. Now teams that are picking between 20 and 28 could get a guy like Rison, who is in the top 5 on their board. A lot of people thought Rison might go to Atlanta, might go to Tampa Bay with the 5th, 6th pick. All of a sudden, he might be there for the Colts, for the Steelers. And that's what makes the draft, as far as being an exact science, something that it isn't.
I have to wonder if John Robinson is at this point thinking to himself, maybe I dreamt this. This is a dream. I have a shot here at a Rison or at a Louis Oliver if I want him. Whereas when he got up this morning, it was just not going to happen. This is a team that really took a hard hit, just like the Oilers, probably among the hardest hit on Type B veteran free agency. 37% of the players around the league that had a chance to move did so. And they did so at an average, well, the bonuses were almost averaging $40,000. And so people left the Rams. They lost 12 players. They lost Gary Jeter. They lost Johnny Johnson. They took some heavy hits.
They did, and they had those defensive line needs going in. That's why Billy Hawkins' name has come up from Miami. If I were the New Orleans Saints, that's who I would have taken. Not Wayne Martin, but a Bill Hawkins. You'll hear Mitchell Benson's name come up in the late first, early second. A big wide body from TCU who would be a heck of a nose tackle for somebody. So there's some names. Of course, Rocker, we're going to be talking about him, but he had plummeted out of the first round possibly, but he was productive, so people are going to consider him as well. This is tough for the Rams. You have Gary, you have Rison, you have Oliver, a lot of great value picks, but you also have the need with the defensive line. This will be one of the more interesting choices in the first round to see what direction Robinson's going to go.
These are choices they didn't think they'd have. These are options they did not anticipate. Mel, your rankings of the top wide receivers already, we can see that, well, Andre Rison was your top one. We had 6 wide receivers taken in the first round last year, and the first one selected this year, Hart Lee Dykes, taken by the New England Patriots in the 16th position. So it's been a rather speedy first round. It has not been a round where we've seen a lot of wide receivers go, so your top guy is still out there, as well as Sean Collins. Interesting, he was, what, a tight end in college, but you project him as a wide receiver in the NFL.
Well, he's only 6'1½", 205, so he will definitely be a wide receiver. He's got good speed. He's got great hands. Sean Collins should be a late first, early second round pick. I'm sure a team like the Lions, who are going to that run and shoot, and now have Barry Sanders, would love to have a wide receiver like Sean Collins or Lawyer Tillman or Peebles. There's going to be some great receivers on the board in the early second for teams that definitely need help at that position.
All right, we're waiting on the Rams. They have 3 minutes to make the first of their 2 first-round selections. We'll see if anything is perking in the way of a trade. There are plummeting picks and some outrageous fortune for the Rams when we come back.
I've got to go.
But we just got here.
I've got some calls to make. I'm going to look for another job.
What?
Our group's getting computers.
So?
So I haven't figured out the new typewriters yet.
Here's your chance to do a lot more than just typing.
Yeah, but...
Relax. Bob Deion learned how to use one.
Bob Deion? The guy who still needs help with the copy machine?
Yeah, that's the one.
Maybe I will have a little something.
Third Base Sports and Trophies is the winning team for your sporting goods and award presentation needs. We specialize in team uniforms, jackets, custom embroidery, and engraving with a wide variety of plaques and trophies to choose from. But what you'll really like about Third Base is the fast, same-day service because all the work is done on premises. You're safe at Third Base Sports and Trophies, Route 38 and Hollywood Avenue, just west of the Cherry Hill Mall. Fax orders welcome. Call for a free catalog.
If you're one of those people who thinks of the Inquirer as just a big city newspaper, think again. Sure, we cover the city like no one else. And we offer Pulitzer Prize quality reporting of the rest of the world. But now, get the Inquirer where you live in the suburbs, and 3 times a week you'll get your own suburban news section called Neighbors. The Inquirer covers your community as well as we cover everywhere else. So get the Inquirer where you live and get the city, the suburbs, and the world all in one package. Why buy any other newspaper?
For all the action is ESPN. The City of Lights is aglow with live French Open tennis. Then off to the races when the green flag falls, including 3 days of Indy time trials. ESPN brings you Derby Day and Preakness Day specials. The PGA Tour always spells action. And college baseball's best head for the NCAA World Series. All this and more in May, only on ESPN.
The Rams. The clock is ticking. We're back live in New York City for the 10th consecutive year ESPN's coverage of the National Football League draft. We have seen some players slip on down towards that Rams 21st selection. They will also be picking again on the number 26 hole, the second from last selection in the first round. This is a trade, or this is a pick that the Rams, this is their own. Their later pick will be one they picked up in the Eric Dickerson trade. All right, if I had to pin you down, not to what you would pick, but what you think they will do, what will they do? Ryson?
I'd take Rising.
You would they?
Will they? Probably not. They would probably force a defensive line need here, and there are several. We haven't even mentioned the Stewart brothers, Alex and Andrew Stewart, who at one time figured in the late first, early second
Hawkins,
round.
Ronnie
I mentioned Mitchell Benson, Ronnie West, and Hawkins. These are the defensive linemen there, but my pick would be Rising, obviously, but I don't think they will.
It's that man's last draft after 29 years as National Football League Commissioner. Pete Rozelle will shortly have the announcement as the card is up at the podium. The Rams pick. Pete Rozelle once the GM of the Rams way back when.
Rams first round selection. Bill Hawkins, defensive end, Miami.
Well, whether it's a force, time will tell. Defensive, as you said, Mel, is not the selection you would make, but it is the selection the Rams would make now with the Colts up on deck. Bill Hawkins, defensive end out of Miami. And so for a team that really had a lot of needs and has pretty well defined them, this is their first round.
Well, one thing about this, which was different than New Orleans, Bill Hawkins was the best defensive lineman on the board. I thought he should have gone to the Saints. So if you're talking about just drafting the best player at a position of need, they did it. But they passed on the best overall player in Rising. You see Hawkins, he's not that big. He's only 260 pounds, but he's got tremendous movement, almost has that agility of a linebacker that you're looking for. Good pass rusher. Does a great job against the run. A complete player, but not a dominant player.
Part of an outstanding front line. Brown, Stubbs, Hawkins up there, and an outstanding student. He earned his degree, in fact, played as a postgraduate, earned his bachelor's in business with a 3.0 grade point average last year. So he's got what it takes to read. What reading you do in the trash up front.
He does, and now we have, of course, the Indianapolis Colts sitting there with this pick, and I'm sure Ron Meyer's ecstatic right now. When you have players like Oliver and Rising and Lawyer Tillman still there, if he passes on one of those three players, then you got to believe something's wrong with their board, because these three players should be in your top 10, and they're picking with the 22nd pick, and they're definitely getting value with this choice.
Well, Louis Oliver thought that by this point, certainly on this draft day Sunday, he would already know who his future employer would be, but he has not learned that. Andrea Kramer standing by in Winnetka, Illinois, at the home of his agent. Andrea, what's happening? Is Louis disappointed?
Thank you, Bob. Well, I would venture to say that, yes, Louis is disappointed. One thing, though, when a player stays around this late, unfortunately, I think some rumors have to start, and some rumors have. Louis, have you ever had any problems with drugs? Have there ever been any drug tests that you have failed or refused to take?
I've never failed a drug test. I don't know why someone wants to say that I'm on drugs. I don't smoke. I don't drink. I've taken every test that was given to me, so I don't know who started this rumor that I'm on drugs, so I think that's the reason that no one has picked me up yet.
You expected to go in the 12th or by the 12th or 13th pick. Needless to say, you're a little bit disappointed. You did not want to come down before. Why now?
Well, the PR person from Zucker Sports Management came up and told me that there was a rumor going around that I was on drugs and had failed a drug test, so I felt that was the reason I hadn't got picked up yet, so I came down to clarify that.
Have there ever been any problems with storage? No. Do you have any reason why your stock possibly could have plummeted like this?
No, I don't. I don't take steroids. I work out hard all the time. I run all the time, so I don't know why someone wants to say I failed drug tests. I mean, I took the test at the combine all throughout my career at Florida, so I've never failed a drug test at all.
Well, we thank you very much for talking to us. I know it's a difficult time, and Louis at least will probably end up going to a contender at this point by going this late in the draft. The one good thing. Let's head to break right now. Stay with us.
I got my mind set on you. I got my mind set on you. Got my mind set on you. But it's gonna take me.
Mercedes-Benz 560 SL Coupe Roadster. Is it the car you wanted above all others because of its mighty V8 power? Or its blend of quick reflexes and sumptuous comfort? Or its incredible workmanship and finish? Only one thing is certain. You will have the driving experience of your life. Finding out.
Like a lot of business people, I thought all insurance companies were the same. Believe me, there's a world of difference out there. I know, because thanks to the Hartford, we survived the kind of fire that would have wiped out most companies. But with the Hartford's people behind my business, we met payroll. We got back on our feet. So please, don't tell me all insurance companies are the same. They're not.
When you need us most, we're at our best. The Hartford.
So the Colts, as the clock ticks with 9.5 minutes to go. The Colts with a selection that used to belong to the Eagles, coming over to them by way of the Ron Solt trade last year. Solt, part of Buddy Ryan's, and Buddy goes about it every which way. He was so happy last year when he had Keith Jackson, the tight end, available. Wait to see what happens with the Colts, with Andre Rison still out there, with Louis Oliver out there. And we've heard the rather frank discussion between Andrea and Louis Oliver about the rumors. And this is a non-believing society. We were talking about this yesterday at length, how people want to believe bad things about people, unfortunately, when things like that crop up and people's names begin plummeting. And Lewis says, I have passed every drug test. I've never refused to take one.
Well, it's true, and when you look at Rison and Oliver, I think that they'll go in this spot, and it's going to be a contender. So I think they're going to be in good shape in the long run. Naturally, they're going to pay the prices for their contract initially is concerned, but overall, it can benefit a player because he's going to be in the playoffs or possibly a Super Bowl early in his career.
Well, the NFL drug testing policy is in effect, as well as a steroid policy as well for this coming year. And we're, of course, waiting for the Rams to make their second selection in a bit, Kevin Kiley. They've already made one in this first round.
Thank you, Bob. I'm here with head coach John Robinson of the Rams. John, are you a little bit surprised that Bill Hawkins was left at this point in the draft?
Oh, I think when you get into this thing, you can't worry about surprises. We thought he'd be picked somewhere around our pick, perhaps a little earlier, but he provides for us that pass rusher type of player, that profile, that tall, rangy player. He's been a consistent performer for Miami, and we think his best football is ahead of him. We've had a lot of frustration over the years trying to find that type of player, that type of pass rusher, and once we saw him there, we were determined to have him.
I know talking to Fritz Shermer, the defensive coordinator for the Rams earlier, was saying, gee, we just haven't been able to hit that defensive lineman. Do you feel you've hit one?
Well, we certainly hope so, yes. So we do feel, we feel that Bill's a very bright young man, has proven that he can be successful. He's played in a great program, a club there where he's used to winning, and that's always an important factor. Each year in the draft, there are receivers that seem to be there each year, but the defensive end has been an elusive character.
Okay, John, the Colts are getting ready to pick. Thanks so much for coming out. See you, and we'll see you a little later after those other picks. Okay, back to Chris Berman.
All right, Kevin, thank you very much. And here's the Colts pick, please. Isn't it Andre Rison by now? From Philadelphia. It's the pick in the Ron Solt trade.
Indianapolis Colts take in the Philadelphia spot in the first round by virtue of the previous trade agreement. Andre Rison, wide receiver, Michigan State.
Well, like we
Next
said, Andre Rison is going to a team. Joe dropped him down from Michigan. So we've been waiting to show these highlights for a couple hours.
Oh, these are highlights.
We're very happy to show them to you because this guy was rated #1 on a lot of everyone's list as wide receiver. 146 career catches, broke Kirk Gibson's all-time record for receiving yardage with almost 3,000 yards. In the Gator Bowl, 9 catches, 252 yards, 4 TDs. Joe, I know you remember that. But 3 touchdown passes in the Hula Bowl. And is such a good athlete that his sophomore and especially his junior year, he plays in the Rose Bowl and then plays 6th man on the basketball team. Not this past year. He's 6th man on a Big Ten basketball team. What kind of athlete is Andre Rison? I'll tell you what, Ron Meyer can't believe that they had such a shot to get a receiver like this. And again, Tommy, we talked about it, and Joe, he's going to a team that's going to cost him money, but he's going to a team that can get into playoffs right away and was a year ago.
Well, he'll make that money up, Chris. The difference between being chosen as those first 10 players second 10 players, last 8 is substantial. But when you're talking about a kid now who may miss the dollars coming out, but his team hopefully will be in the playoffs year in, year out, he'll make that money back along the way.
There's the receivers that the Colts have.
And they really need them. Clarence Verdine comes over from the Redskins. Matt Booza, not real burners. Billy Brooks, pretty fast. And Clarence Weathers, still in his 7th, still unproven. I think this is a perfect situation for Andre Rison. You know, we get all wrapped up with money for these kids. First 10, second 10, third 10. I don't think that's necessarily that big a factor. This kid is a quality first-round pick. It just so happens that Indianapolis has improved himself to be a pretty good football team. It doesn't mean that they still aren't going to be able to pay that kind of money. The one catch he made there was 4th and 21. He reminds me of a Ricky Sanders that the Washington Redskins have. His movements, his running ability, and the one thing when I worked the Gator Bowl this year that impressed me more than anything is his work habits. He was diving around on a field, making catches, getting ready for a bowl game just to try and help his football team win. The Indianapolis Colts have got themselves a real blue chipper in Andre Rison.
And as a guy that I was told that was rated at least the equal of Michael Irvin, who was picked very high last year with the Dallas Cowboys, the equal of coming out of college. And we all agree that the Colts have one heck of a player, and it certainly fits their bill to a T. The next